All right, yes, perfect. So right here, we are looking at the dollar first, understanding that we are currently reaching this weekly target right there. So again, do I think we can push higher from here? Not necessarily, but this is definitely a potential target, a potential weekly low that either could push into this weekly value gap or next week could be responsible for pushing into this weekly value gap that is also about to be created right there. So that is something to take into account right there. And the reason for that is because if we are moving from that discount rate to now a clear premium rate, then we will also likely close above this low right there throughout this week and throughout this day in the next 5 hours as well. So it will be very interesting to see what we want to do overall. Overall, I'm still bearish. So if we were to take a trade right here, then the 4-hour value gap could still be nice. Understanding that this is sort of that last line of defense. And with the last line of defense here, I don't mean the last line of defense as in order flow last line of defense. This is your last line of defense as in the last line of defense where if we were to not respect this 4-hour value gap, then we are likely trading into a weekly value gap either next week or this week already. So that is important to understand right there. So this is where you can take a winner or a loss. Very easily said. Thank you, Mr. Obvious, but that is what it depends on right now. This 4-hour value gap that is potentially being created in the next hour as well. Seeing if we get a 1-hour ST overall, which currently does not really seem like it. If that doesn't happen, perfect. Then I'm still very much interested in 4-hour value gaps lower right there to continue lower off of that. So with that in mind, let's look at ES, NASDAQ, and YM, which the price action, to be honest, has been absolutely horrendous. It has not been nice at all. With NASDAQ, I would still, overall, we're still bullish. So we need to understand that. And the reason I mentioned that is because it wouldn't surprise me if we just continue higher right here. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we just come into that weekly value to then continue higher. So at this moment in time, what I always require of a price is either a clear premium or a clear discount. Is in either we have a clear premium, and not a premium I want to take shorts off of, but a clear premium as in we are above this high and we need a retracement into the fair value gap that we left behind right there to then continue higher off of that. Or we need a clear discount rate right there to then continue higher off the weekly fair value gap. Because overall we can see that we are stuck. We are stuck in between premium and sort of discount right there, where we are just consolidating overall. So that is not something where you would want to get involved in at all. Definitely not. So here it's just waiting. It's just waiting until it does something, hopefully, eventually. And that's the same basically for ES right here and YM. It's also, I saw this 1-hour value gap, and it's not necessarily something I would want to take a long off of right there. It's just really not looking good right here. Don't really like it overall. The potential again, of course, after this seek and destroy is again that we can trend potentially. So that could be very nice. Then on DAX. DAX is basically the same right now, where it's just not super clear on what it wants to do overall. So here I would again wait. Then Australian dollar, US dollar is expanding higher quite nicely. So here, if we can get daily fair value gaps higher again, it's of course still understanding whatever the dollar wants to do. So the first thing I do throughout that day is I first go to the dollar. If the dollar is sweeping that low, then I am not looking at longs on Australian dollar, US dollar. But if the dollar is not sweeping that low, then I'm talking about this scenario right here where we can continue higher off of Australian dollar, US dollar as well. And overall, the daily fair value gaps higher are not really of my interest. 4-hour fair value gaps higher could be quite nice right here to continue higher. But we also need to understand that if we are creating daily fair value gaps, eventually there must be a time where we are sweeping all that 4-hour price action and we are continuing lower right there to come into potentially a weekly fair value gap to then continue higher off of that. So keep that in mind as well, that the trend does come to an end eventually. So don't get caught up in that. And when you know the trend is coming to an end, when we are leaving behind fair value gaps on the higher time frames as well. Then if we take a look at EU, it's still the same thought process, and it's still quite nice. We are potentially creating a daily fair value gap higher as well. If we can have a 4-hour fair value gap right there overlapping with the highs, which is not perfectly overlapping. We have an order block right there nested inside that as well, which could be nice right there overall to continue higher. Do not hate it. If we had a daily value gap, it would have been even nicer. But if the dollar agrees right here tomorrow, then I would still be looking at longs right there on EU. It's looking overall quite nice. Then GU as well. Now, we have the daily value gap, which it's currently glitchy right there. We have the daily value gap. We did not come into that daily value gap though. So here I would also not really expect a move back into the daily value gap. If anything, then I feel like we might continue higher off the 4-hour value gaps already. So New Zealand dollar, US dollar is on the waiting list. And here I do quite like that we have this 4-hour value gap sitting right there, with eventually just continuing higher off that, creating potentially a daily value gap tomorrow as well. Could be quite nice actually. So I'm going to add it to the long list right there. USD Canadian dollar. Have we reached the target? Yes, we have reached the target. And this is one of those instances where we reached the drawn liquidity, because the drawn liquidity overall has been pretty clear to us. But the move there was just not really clean at all. It was just very, very messy price action overall. So it's a bit of a shame, but overall, again, it's okay. And right here, let's see what we want to do first with this weekly value gap. If we want to continue lower, then again, we will likely create a daily value gap lower as well. And it will be a battle between that discount and that premium array first. If the daily wants to continue lower already, then likely we'll see the same as what we saw on crude oil with the monthly and the daily value gap right here, where it takes a few days before we then actually already continue lower off of that. Because it's a battle. It's that first discount and the premium array that are coming together, sort of. So keep that in mind as well right there. But I would currently move it to the waiting list more so. USD CHF right here. We can move on as well. This is not really interesting right now. I'm going to remove the alert as well, because that is not coming into the weekly value gap to then continue lower this week. USD JPY. Let's see. So here we can definitely look to continue lower as well, especially towards those lows. But on the 4-hour, if we get this 4-hour value gap right there before we take out the lows, then that is quite a nice move actually to get involved in right there to continue lower. It's quite nice. Then on silver, let's see, almost reaching the target, I believe. Yes, so it's the same premise where if you have just discount arrays right now in the form of that 4-hour value gap, we can also look to target this high right there. After we reach the target, let's see how it reacts right there to potentially take out these highs as well. And that is the same for gold, I imagine. Yes, so gold here, of course, since we're expanding higher already right there, you would not expect a retracement right there into the daily value gap. So here, 4-hour value gaps, daily value gaps could be quite nice overall to continue higher off of. Although with the target pretty far away still, and there's quite a lot of value gaps to choose from, it's not something I would like to trade off of personally. So I would personally like something else better. Bitcoin, let's see. Not creating, or did create actually the bearish value gap right there, but overall not showing signs that it does want to continue lower. So right here it's again still waiting. A lot of waiting right here. Then crude oil. So it's very 50-50 at that moment in time. And if we can create finally that daily value gap higher, then I would still be interested in getting involved potentially. So that could still eventually be quite nice. Nifty is just continuing higher, and I'm not very familiar with the characteristics of Nifty, but it seems like it doesn't want to have a lot of retracements before it actually reaches the target. So might be something interesting as well to take into account for Nifty. Overall, same target, that high is what we can reach for right there. Then for the short list, Canadian dollar CHF. So this is definitely looking quite interesting because we are coming into that weekly fair value gap where we can continue lower off of. Only thing that we did not come into is the overlap part. Right there. So if we are sweeping that, then that would be the next boundary to potentially look for lower prices off of. If we do not respect that, then I would overall expect higher prices. But right here, we are coming into it, sweeping everything right there to potentially continue lower. We don't have a 4-hour value gap lower though, which I do not really like. But on the 1 hour right here, if we can come into this, get either a clear confirmation or get just new fair value gaps lower off that. Even a 15-minute fair value gap lower, that could already be quite nice to then target lower as well. And remember what I said, when you sort of don't, sometimes when you don't really get that confirmation in the beginning and you get a very aggressive move lower, it might seem in first instance that it's a very clean move lower and it's definitely going lower, but those type of moves also tend to trick people into the market where you don't get the confirmation and it just does something like this right there. So keep that in mind as well. And to prevent that, that is why I mentioned, all right, let's wait and not get too eager to get involved, too greedy to get involved right now. Let's just wait a little bit longer to get that clear 15-minute ST potentially, to then get involved again. Or even 5-minute right there, 5-minute ST plus RE. Just sort of getting that clear confirmation again. That is what I'm aiming for. And then GBP Canadian dollar right here. So on the daily time frame, we said we are potentially sweeping that high to continue lower. Overall on the 4-hour, we're sweeping those lows right now to continue higher right there. So it's pretty 50-50 for me here. I'm going to move to the waiting list. I'm not really interested to do anything right here. Euro GBP. So let's see what it is doing. So it did not create a daily fair value gap lower or a 4-hour fair value gap lower, which is a bit of a shame because we can still target those swing lows right there and eventually this low as well. So in the meantime, we have, again, pretty clear draw on liquidity in my eyes. It's just that we don't really have clear premium areas to continue lower from. So if we can create this 4-hour fair value gap, that could definitely be quite nice to continue lower off of that. I would prefer that. No, I would not prefer that over Canadian dollar CHF, but I would definitely like that as well. It's pretty equal with Canadian dollar CHF. Do really like that. Then for the longs, let's see. Euro Canadian dollar is the same story as on, what was it? Canadian dollar CHF. The exact same story, just reversed. Where the weekly right here, only thing I do not like is that it did not come into the overlapping part. It's the only thing I do not like. Other than that, it's very, very nice price action right here. I just want a little bit more confirmation to potentially look to actually continue higher off of this. I definitely think it can continue higher, but it might as well just first sweep this again, come into the overlapping part to then continue higher off of that. And that would be a shame that if that happens, that we did not wait for some extra confirmation right there and prevented a loss potentially. So again, if we get that confirmation, then we have a nice winner. If we do not get that confirmation, then we prevented a potential loss, which could also be very nice, of course. So CHF JPY. Right here, I did not really like this morning. And the reason for that is because, yes, we had to move higher, but on the 1 hour, we can just see that this did not really expand higher anymore, which I just didn't really like myself at that time. Because again, it's compared to this leg, the second leg is just not that great. That is 64 and this is 47 right there. So again, I do not really like that myself right there. So overall, this is also likely going to the breakdown list unless you want to get involved in now your unusual context where you target the lows right there, where you switch the bias. So we can definitely take a look at that by putting it on the waiting list overall. EU, let's see. Yeah, we talked about this, of course, and it could also be nice potentially. It's the same for GU. Australian dollar JPY right here. Did not get any more confirmation of it, so I'm also going to move to the waiting list. If anything, then this 4-hour value gap lower right there might be the move to then target these lows right there. But I do not want to get involved in that personally. I think there's a higher probability pair out there. New Zealand dollar JPY. Let's see. Also not showing intention higher. So it's the same thing where if you want to get involved, then I would suggest looking at disrespect boundaries to target lower potentially. But I'm going to move to the waiting list because I do not really like it myself. Australian dollar, US dollar, silver, gold, all what we went over. New Zealand dollar, US dollar as well. Then if we take a look at the waiting list, USD CHF right here is just, I think this can be moved to the breakdown list actually because it's just not really clear. And yeah, just no, just don't really like it. Don't want to get involved right here. There's nothing much to wait for. Euro CHF. Let's see. Also not much to wait for here for the rest of the week. So also don't really want to get involved here myself. Euro JPY. Again, this can be a disrespect boundary. If anything, this is a nice disrespect boundary potentially to look at shorts to target that low potentially. So if anything, I would add it to the short list right there. GBP JPY. Now this is again, same scenario where I would not want to get involved in anything related to GBP JPY right here. Reason being, it's because we are about to create a monthly fair value gap expansion phase right there. So I really want to wait to see what we want to do in the next monthly candle right there, because it might just consolidate that whole month, then trade into that monthly candle to then continue higher. So here I do not really want to do anything, and this daily fair value gap is definitely not of my interest, mainly because we already did not create a daily fair value gap that was overlapping with the highs right there. So this is not interesting to me right there to continue higher off of. Then Australian dollar, Canadian dollar as well. Still on the waiting list, just not really interested in it. Don't really like it myself. If we can get a disrespect boundary right there to target the weekly fair value gap that is sitting right there, that could be quite nice. But that's something we'll probably see after tomorrow, potentially. Australian dollar, CHF. Alright, nice. I think this is quite ready to move to the list again. If we can create a day, well, let's wait one more day. If we can create that daily fair value gap right there, I would like to get involved off of that. Canadian dollar, JPY. It's again, I'm going to move this to the breakdown list because it's a perfect example of just seeking short conditions and the loyalty test and why you would not want to trust a pair like this. Perfect example. Then New Zealand dollar, CHF. Also going to keep it on the waiting list, but drawn liquidity again is quite clear. So if we can get a daily fair value gap higher or anything higher, could be quite nice now to target that high. USD Canadian dollar we talked about, and I think these are all what we talked about as well. Yes, we did. All right, perfect. So that is currently what I am looking at. Euro Canadian dollar could be nice. EU could also be nice. New Zealand dollar, US dollar could definitely also be quite nice. For the shorts, Canadian dollar, CHF again could be nice. Overall, these all could be nice with the right confirmation as well. All right, perfect. Thank you.